All right, so you guys have sent us some really interesting stuff on habits this time.
Yeah.
A whole chapter from a book, and I'm pretty sure it's Atomic Habits, and then this fascinating story about a photography class.
hmm
So we're going to break down exactly why just thinking about a habit is totally different from actually building one.
Yeah, it's like the classic trap, right?
Yeah,
Preparation versus execution. We can plan and strategize all day long, but if we don't take action, nothing's really happening.
totally. And this is where the photography experiment comes in. It shows this idea in a really powerful way.
Right.
So imagine you're a student in Jerry Yolzman's class.
Okay.
First day, he divides everyone into two groups.
Right?
One group, the quantity group, is graded only on how many photos they take. The more, the better. The other group, the quality group, has to put all their energy into just one photo, their masterpiece.
Right.
Okay, I think I can already see where this is going. I bet the quantity group ended up producing some amazing work.
You got it. At the end of the semester, the quantity group was blowing everyone away. They had all this practice, all this experimentation. It really made them learn and adapt. The quality group, they were so focused on perfection, they didn't have much to show for all their effort.
It's kind of surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes you think how often we get stuck in that quality mindset. We overthink and overplan instead of just starting.
All the time.
Yeah.
This experiment is such a great example of the difference between motion and action.
Wow.
Motion is all that planning, the research, the strategy.
Right.
Action is where you really get things done. You get your hands dirty and do the thing.
So, like, if someone is planning their perfect workout routine, that's motion. But actually going to the gym, that's action.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Motion can feel productive. It makes you feel like you're making progress. But in the end, it's the action that gets results.
It's like spending hours researching the best running shoes, but never actually going for a run.
Exactly. And the more we get caught up in motion, the less likely we are to take action. It's a trap that's so easy to fall into.
So how do we get out of that trap? How do
Yeah.
we go from just being in motion to taking consistent action?
Well, it's actually fascinating. There's a whole neurological basis for how habits form.
Oh, brain science.
Yeah, it all comes down to repetition and how our brains work.
Okay, tell me more.
Basically, every time we repeat an action, the connections between neurons in our brain, they get stronger. It's like making a path through the woods. The more you walk it, the easier it gets.
So the more I do something, the more it becomes a part of my brain.
Exactly. And this goes for anything, whether it's playing an instrument, learning a new language, even remembering names. The more we repeat something, the stronger those connections get.
Okay, that makes sense. But is there any way to actually see this? Like, how many times do we need to do something before it becomes a habit?
There's this visual that explains it really well. It's called the habit line. Imagine a graph, okay? The horizontal axis shows how many times you repeat something, and the vertical axis shows automaticity, or how automatic the action becomes.
Okay, I'm picturing it. So when we're just starting a new habit, we're at the bottom of the graph.
Right.
Right? Lots of effort, but not very automatic.
Exactly. It feels awkward and uncomfortable, maybe even frustrating, takes a lot of effort. But as we keep doing it, we start moving up that line. The more we practice, the more automatic it becomes.
So it's not really about doing something for a long time. It's about doing it again and again.
Exactly. There's a good example in the book that shows this. Imagine two people who both want to start walking 10 minutes every day.
Okay.
One person walks for 10 minutes straight once a day. The other person takes 1-minute walks throughout the day. Now they're both walking the same amount of time.
But the person taking the shorter walks is doing it way more often. I see what you mean.
Right. Even though it's the same amount of time, the person with the shorter walks is going to see progress much faster. They're basically hitting that habit line over and over throughout the day, which makes those connections stronger more quickly.
Wow, that's a really interesting way to think about it. So it's not just about how much time we spend, but also how often and how consistently we do it.
Exactly. And this brings us to a really important principle of building habits, the third law of behavior change. Make it easy.
Make it easy. Okay, tell me more about that. How does that connect with everything we've been talking about?
Well, think about it. The easier something is to do, the more likely we are to do it, right?
Right,
And remember, repetition is key to making things automatic.
right. The more we do something, the faster we move up that habit line. So making it easy basically makes it easier to repeat.
Exactly. It's about reducing friction, getting rid of any obstacle that might stop us from doing what we want to do.
So instead of trying to change your whole diet at once, you might just swap one unhealthy snack for a healthy one each day.
Perfect example.
Yeah. Small changes, big impact.
Or let's say you want to start meditating. Don't jump into a 30-minute session right away. Start with 5 minutes, maybe even less. Make it so easy you can't say no.
It's almost like tricking your brain into forming the habit.
Right.
You're taking away any reason not to do it.
Exactly. We're setting ourselves up for success by making the thing we want to do the easiest choice. And that's a really powerful way to build any habit.
This all makes so much sense, but I'm wondering how we actually use these ideas. What are some real things we can do to build better habits in our own lives?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I'm ready to actually start using these ideas to build habits.
Right.
We've been talking about so much the brain science, the idea of making things easy.
Yeah, and remember, the important thing is to focus on action, not just motion. We can plan all we want, but it's actually doing things consistently that makes the difference.
Right, and you mentioned that there are some real strategies we can use to actually apply this stuff. So let's get into that.
One thing that I think is really important is to focus on building just one habit at a time. We often try to change too many things at once, and that can just be overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like the whole New Year's resolution thing, right? People try to change their whole life on January 1st and then give up by February.
Exactly. It's much more effective to choose one specific habit and put all your energy into that. Then, once that habit becomes automatic, you can move on to the next one.
It's kind of like building a house. You start with a strong foundation and go from there.
Yeah, exactly. And this actually connects to the idea of keystone habits. These are habits that when you build them, they have a positive impact on other areas of your life too.
Oh, I like that. So, for example, if you start going to bed and waking up at the same time every day, that could help you have more energy, be more productive, and even make healthier food choices.
Exactly. You focus on one key habit, and it ends up improving other things without even trying. It shows you that even small changes can make a big difference.
So choosing that first habit wisely is really important. What about other strategies to help us build lasting habits?
Another great technique is something called habit stacking. This means you attach a new habit to one you already have. So you're using the power of that existing habit to help you build the new one.
So like if I already make coffee every morning, I could add on meditating for 5 minutes right after.
Perfect example. You're connecting the new habit with something you already do automatically, which makes it easier to stick with. It's like creating a shortcut in your brain.
Habit stacking. That sounds really useful. Are there any other strategies that can help us be successful?
One that people often don't think about is the importance of your environment. The things around us have a huge impact on our behavior. So if you want to build a habit, try to make your environment work for you, not against you.
So if I'm trying to drink less soda, I might get rid of all the soda in my house and replace it with sparkling water or tea.
Exactly. Or if you want to read more, create a nice comfy reading spot with good lighting and a pile of books ready to go. If you make it easy and enjoyable to do the things you want to do, you're much more likely to actually do them.
It's like setting yourself up for success before you even start.
Exactly. You're taking control of your environment instead of letting it control you.
This all makes so much sense. But I'm guessing there are going to be times when, even with all these strategies, we still have trouble. How do we stay motivated and deal with those times when we just don't feel like it?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, so let's talk about those times when it's tough, when
Right.
we're not feeling motivated or things get in the way.
Right, because it's going to happen. Life never goes perfectly, so there will definitely be times when we struggle to keep up with those new habits.
So what can we do about that? How do we stick with it even when it's hard?
Well, one thing that can really help is to have a really strong reason for wanting to build the habit. When we understand why it's important to us, why we really want to make this change, it gives us that extra push to keep going.
That's like having a purpose, right? It reminds us why we started in the first place.
Exactly. So let's say you're trying to make exercise a regular habit, but you keep hitting snooze instead of going to the gym. That's when you need to remember why you wanted to do this in the first place. Think about how good it feels to have more energy, to be in a better mood, and how it's going to help you be healthier in the long run.
Right, so it's about connecting with those deeper reasons, the ones that really mean something to you.
Another thing that can be super helpful is to find someone to keep you accountable, like a friend or a family member, or even join a group of people who are working on the same thing. When we share our goals and our progress with others, it can give us a boost and make us feel more supported.
It's like having a team, right? Someone to celebrate with and help you when you need it.
And don't forget about rewards. When we give ourselves something we enjoy after making progress, even small progress, it makes us feel good and want to keep going.
Yeah, it's like a little pat on the back, acknowledging that we're doing something good for ourselves.
Exactly. The rewards don't have to be big. It could be something simple, like having a cup of tea after you meditate, or watching your favorite show after you finish a big project.
It's about finding what works for you and using it to stay motivated.
Now, of course, we're all going to have setbacks. Everyone does. But when that happens, the important thing is to be kind to yourself and see it as a chance to learn.
Instead of getting upset about missing a day or two, we can ask ourselves what happened and how we can do better next time.
Exactly. It's about shifting your perspective and seeing challenges as opportunities to grow.
So instead of giving up after a slip-up, we can figure out what went wrong, make some adjustments, and get right back on track.
Exactly. Remember, building habits is a journey. It's not about being perfect. There are going to be ups and downs along the way. But if you have the right mindset and the right tools, you can handle them and reach your goals.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. We've talked about so much, the science behind habits, practical tips, and even how to deal with challenges. I think our listeners will find this really helpful.
Yeah, I hope so.
Any last words of advice for our listeners as they start working on their own habits?
I would say don't worry about being perfect. Just focus on making progress. Celebrate those small wins. Be kind to yourself when you stumble. And remember that doing something consistently, even if it's small, can make a huge difference.
That's great advice. And to our listeners, remember, you don't have to do this alone. Find support from friends, family, or even online communities. And most importantly, enjoy the process of becoming the best version of yourself, one habit at a time. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.